It's official. Prince Philip, who died aged 99 on Friday, was a climate change sceptic. In a letter in 2018 from the Prince to Ian Plimer, the climate expert who was on Outsiders just last week, the Duke of Edinburgh not only compliments Professor Plimer on his recent book, The Climate Change Delusion, but also praises his previous book, Heaven and Earth, which similarly questioned the missing science behind the global warming scam. Furthermore, in this letter, which Ian has kindly provided to Outsiders, the late Prince Philip, never one to mince his words, described the wind turbines now blotting landscapes across the globe as monstrosities and questioned whether they served any practical purpose. In fact, the Prince attempted to invite Professor Plimer to London to address the Royal Society of Artists on climate change back in 2010. But the invitation was disgracefully rescinded by the mandarins at Buckingham Palace for political reasons. And I quote the letter he received then from the palace. Dear Professor Plimer, I am writing to you with some disappointing news regarding the Prince Philip annual lecture on 5 May 2010. As you well know, the debate around climate change has recently become highly politically charged, both globally and especially in your home country. Equally, wrote the Mandarin, as I am sure you are aware, members of the royal family need to be scrupulous in avoiding any appearance of advocating or supporting a political stance. After discussion with Buckingham Palace, it is therefore with great regret that we must withdraw your invitation to give this year's Prince Philip lecture. What a tragedy that Ian Plimer was not allowed to make that speech as Prince Philip wanted him to. And what is extraordinary about that letter is that as well as confirming that the Prince was a big fan of Ian Plimer's, it points out that the royal family should have nothing to do with the politics of climate change, something I have said repeatedly on this show, yet today, a decade on, both future monarchs, Prince Charles and Prince William, the former in particular in advocating the Great Reset and embracing Greta Thunberg, and the latter in his fondness for Sir David Attenborough, are in climate politics up to their eyeballs. Prince Philip, now that he's finally in his grave, will surely spend a great deal of the years ahead spinning in it. Rita and James, your takes on the death of Prince Philip. James, kick it off.
Well, I mean, I think everybody here in Australia is feeling like, it's almost like a bit of a death in the family. People really felt this one, I think, because he was not only this sort of great kind of larrikin and very entertaining, very humorous fellow, and we're going to talk about that a little bit soon, but also he was somebody who had a real link to those old virtues of stoicism and getting on with it that I think, so many people wish we had more of. And I was reading an interview that the Duke had given when he was talking about his experience in the Mediterranean fighting the Italian fascists during World War II, and there was a battle where he was mentioned in dispatches, but he was asked, how did you cope with all of that? And he said, quote, with the people who died around him, he said, it was part of the fortunes of war, the Prince said. We didn't have counselors rushing around every time someone let off a gun, asking, quote, are you all right? Are you sure you don't have a ghastly problem? You just got on with it. And, I think this shows that that real stoicism that his generation had. I think that that so many people in this therapeutic culture find people like Prince Philip who did just get on with it. And he always said, no matter what your circumstances in life, you just get on with it and you do it. That is just anathema to today's religion of wokeness and therapeutic ideals and so on. And so that's why I think so many people on the left found him to be such a troubling figure.